Another edition of the Patriots Beat Podcast. Sorry about the little delay there. We are fresh off the field coming from Gillette Stadium for a Tom Brady birthday edition of Day 8 of Patriots training camp. Brian Hines from Pat's Pulpit, joined as always by Alex Barth from 98.5 The Sports Hub. And after a big day for the offense, punch back, I think we are kind of on the same page today, a little more back and forth stuff from the offense and defense. But I want to start off with maybe the story of the day, a curious exit early from Jack Jones, which first off, he was a little late getting out on the field after stretching. A lot of us marked him absent, and then he rolled in there late. And then something happened there early on an out route against Kendrick Bourne, and all of a sudden Jack Jones is off the field with Jabril Peppers talking to him, gone for about 20 minutes, and then randomly appears and takes a knee on the sideline, long chat with Matt Groh, and he never steps on the field again. So it doesn't look like he got kicked out of practice because he came back, but a curious kind of situation from Jack Jones here to kind of headline Day 8 of training camp.
Yeah, that was a weird one. He gets, first of all, he was late, right, for the start of practice. He wasn't out there for the start of stretch. We all reported that he wasn't out there, comes out late. Yeah, got beat on that out route by Kendrick Bourne, and it was one of those periods where the Patriots do this thing, like those boxing pads, right, that boxing trainers wear that you punch like the individual. They have defensive backs wear those on their hands, and they've done this for years, so that, you know, they have to get used to coverage without grabbing the receiver, and it's supposed to help with technique. And so Jones gets beat on the out route. I don't even know that Kendrick Bourne caught the ball.
It was close. It was
close. A good throw from Bailey Zappi to kind of just get it into that window and near the sideline. And Jack Jones, lying on the ground after diving and trying to break the pass up, takes the pad, just throws it into the ground, like slams it into the ground. And then, was like visibly unhappy. I thought he got hurt. Like, to me, it was the reaction of a player that fell bad, you know, dislocated something, hit something, and he was frustrated because he knew he was hurt. But no, he then, walks off the field. Jabril Peppers walked off with him, came back 20 minutes later, chatted with Matt Groh, chatted with Jalen Mills, and didn't take part in any other drills. But it was just a really weird scene for a guy that obviously has some weird things going on and has some off the field questions going on. I don't know that we're going to get a chance to figure out what happened. Christian Gonzalez was the only defensive back who spoke today. He didn't talk about it. Mills already talked this week. Peppers already talked this week. Bill's done speaking for the week. So I'm not sure how we'll get an answer on it. Maybe somebody speaks tomorrow after the in-stadium that can clarify for us. But yeah, weird scene. And it did lead to some other things that we'll get to in terms of what the defense looked like without Jack Jones on the field. But that was an odd one.
Yep. Maybe our best chance assistant coaches will speak tomorrow. So Pellegrino, Max coach, could have a little insight on that because Jones did talk to him. It looked like they had a brief conversation before he departed. But yeah, all around kind of a weird situation. And as you mentioned, for a guy who's got some off-field stuff, a court date in like 14, 15 days here, wants to try to lay low a little bit. And that's the opposite of doing that. So we'll see the kind of response there. We'll get into the stuff who replaced him on that had a nice day in his place, but kind of big picture offense, defense, I thought we were on the same page. It seemed like they were kind of blowing back and forth today, not a clear-cut winner. Kind of a weird situation at times with Mac running with the starting offensive line, but the backup skill position players, and Bailey Zappi then had the starting skill position players, but the backup offensive line. So that was kind of the gist of practice today.
Yeah, that was interesting to watch. I'll say this, I wouldn't characterize that as a quarterback competition. If this continues, maybe we can start talking about this. And I promise you, I'm telling the truth. I'm not part of some big scheme making up what we're seeing when we're down there just to push a narrative, which, by the way, let me remind everybody, a quarterback competition, good for clicks, good for media. But what I honestly saw, yes, Mac Jones with the presumed starting offensive line, backup wide receivers, Bailey Zappi, vice versa. But Mac Jones still going against the number one defense. Bailey Zappi still going against the number two defense. That's why this is big. For this to actually become a competition, you have to grade them one for one. And that means Bailey Zappi going against the number one defense, which he has yet to do outside of like essentially a scout team rep is what it was. And that was like day one or day two of camp. What I do think that was, and they did it back in the spring, and Mike Reese reported this is what it was in the spring. They want, in case of emergency, Kayshon Boutte might have to play with Mac Jones. Demario Douglas might end up playing with Mac Jones regardless of injury, but regardless of emergency, get used to throwing to those guys. And Bailey Zappi, if they do get to a point where he needs to start, whether because of injury or Mac Jones doesn't come out of the gate strong, well, then, yeah, you want him to have a couple reps under his belt with Juju Smith-Schuster, with Devontae Parker, et cetera, et cetera. And you saw within that period why that's important because, yes, Mac Jones made a really nice throw on a deep post to Trey Nixon, but he also got intercepted targeting Trey Nixon because the two weren't on the same page. And why would they be? They haven't worked together. Same thing with Bailey Zappi. You saw at times that group, especially that group getting to go against the second defense, and that's the second defense without Jack Jones even on the field. You saw him benefit from the higher level of receiver play, but some of those timing patterns weren't there like they've been between Mac Jones and the top group. So an interesting session, definitely. We'll see if we see it again. If we start to see that regularly, that's maybe the first sign of a quarterback competition. But as a one-off, no, it's not what that was.
Yep. Seems more like contingency plans, just having your backup right. Things covered.
And by the way, if the plan was to use that to kick off a quarterback competition, you wouldn't do it on the last day before you're essentially going to have 2 days off because they're not going to do any live reps tomorrow in the in-stadium, and then they're off Saturday. The day to do it would have been Wednesday because Bailey Zappi had the big day on Sunday. You're going to the first practice in pads on Monday. Both sides of the offense get clicking Tuesday. Wednesday would have been the day to do it. Yesterday would have been the day to do it, not today. So it still nothing resembling a quarterback competition down there in Foxborough. That is the truth. I promise you that is what I saw. I'm not going there to sit out in the sun for 2 hours to make stuff up. And I don't think, Brian, you're doing that either. If there was some big meeting with the reporters to discuss this, I missed it. I was not invited.
You did not miss that. So no quarterback competition, but it was a mixed bag, right? Obviously, as you might expect, working with new guys. Mentioned the interception. Zappi had an interception too in the red zone. Adrian Phillips didn't even see him. I think it looked like Demario Douglas was open. Phillips was kind of playing like a robber role there and just right there for the interception. Mac was a little better in the red zone, I'd say. They had a nice little design on a rub route for Juju for a touchdown. So you're starting to see that point of emphasis that they put on the red zone early in camp kind of, paying dividends here as they move forward.
Yeah, sorry. You just broke out there for a second. What was that last part?
Just the emphasis they're putting on the red zone there. You're starting to see the dividends a little, some of those designs with Bill O'Brien and those plays
so
working in the side field.
The designs are working, and I think on top of the designs as well, I think the designs are part of it. Your internet's good now, Brian, by the way. I think that might have been on my end. The designs are good. It's more, not more, but it's also, you're starting to see the chemistry. And a lot of these are timing patterns. We talked about this yesterday, the concept that the Patriots have sort of stumbled onto, that when you have tall receivers and you throw the ball high, they generally are able to make plays on the football. So a lot of that is timing and chemistry based too, because if you're going to throw the ball in the position where the wide receiver needs to jump, he needs to know when to jump, right? So I think you're seeing it all. It's a combination of things all starting to come together in the red zone, and it's coming together in the full field too. But what's interesting is, remember how this whole thing started in camp? They were only doing red zone. The offense couldn't do anything. And we were sitting there saying, is this going to be like last year? And then I do think the full field work helped them build some of that chemistry, establish some of that. And then when they went back into red zone, they were building off of that.
Yep. Mentioned the jump balls. One to Devontae Parker today. Jonathan Jones got in there. He's been really good down there on those jump balls against Parker this summer. Parker, it looked like he signaled to Mac, get that a little higher. It looked a little low. So, again, if that's going to be a big part of their offense, they got to keep ironing that out. But big offensive thing, I think, these last 2 days, and I want to get your thoughts. We were talking a little bit down there. Tyquan Thornton was limited again today. He didn't do any competitive work, any one-on-ones against defensive backs. He's been kind of a no-show. And for a guy who a lot of us pegged as kind of an X factor in this wide receiver room, obviously that speed is a big threat. It's been a kind of disappointing start to the summer here for Tyquan.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was this show or on the Sports Hub Patriots podcast on 98.5thesportshub.com. People can check out yesterday. I used the term danger zone. And that's where Tyquan Thornton's in, because I think we can really start having this conversation now as DeMario Douglas continues to check boxes, and he checked more boxes today. There was a rare live tackling drill, and he was excellent. So as the whole thing with Tyquan Thornton, like coming in, the draft pick was part of it. But the other reason it felt like he was going to get more leash was, well, they just need speed. They need speed on the offense, and he's probably the only guy that's going to give it to them. Well, here comes DeMario Douglas, and he can do some of that as well. And we're not there yet. I'm not willing to say that DeMario Douglas is the guy and Tyquan Thornton's gone, but if DeMario Douglas can continue to push him and Tyquan Thornton can't even get on the field, like he already has to make up for lost time, and now he's not even on the field able to do it. I mean, his role starts to dissipate, and that's just the reality of it. So he needs to get on. I'm not saying it's all over for him. If he comes back next week and starts making plays and looks good in joint practices, then it becomes, oh, that was weird. Remember like the first week of camp when he just was a no-show? I wonder what changed. That's going to be the conversation. But if it continues to go in this direction, then yeah, you look at his reps being in danger, and DeMario Douglas would have to, do his part too and show up in those joint practices and continue to make plays. But that gap is starting to close very quickly. And I think it was 3 or 4 shows ago, we were talking about, is it too early to start talking about DeMario Douglas and Tyquan Thornton? I don't think it's too early to start talking about it. We're still a ways away from Douglas surpassing him, but things are trending in the direction for that to happen.
Unfortunately, yeah, it doesn't look like that Randy Moss situation I was joking about, where they're just hiding Tyquan Thornton until week 1. It doesn't look like that's where it's headed. You want to see him out there, hopefully sooner rather than later. But yeah, the DeMario Douglas hype, it's took another level today in that one-on-one tackling drill, because I don't think he didn't touch the ground. The Patriots cornerbacks couldn't get him on the ground, and it's still, that skill set is so different from what they have in that room. It's so unique, and you just think a guy like Bill O'Brien would see that and just be all over that stop-start ability out of the slot, the way they're moving them all around the formation too, with Mac Jones really from the start. So that hype's real, and I get it. I see people in the comments saying, wait till he plays in the regular season. There's a long way to go, but everything you've seen so far from Douglas is kind of what you expected, and he just every day he's stacking these on top of each other.
And the other side of it is, and that's true, but the other side is everything you've seen or haven't seen from Tyquan Thornton. This is kind of the point. Wait till you see him in the regular season. Like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he is the next Zach Sudfeld. I don't know. But if he's making plays in camp and Tyquan Thornton isn't, and they know they need to get speed on the field, they're going to give DeMario Douglas a shot. And what he does with that shot, then we'll see. And that will be really interesting. Like, again, we're a long ways to go from that. We got to see him in joint practices first before we see him in preseason game and then a regular season game if we get there. But he's giving them another option for Tyquan Thornton, which is something we didn't think they would have coming into camp. And that's a big deal, especially when Tyquan Thornton is no-showed the way he has.
Yep. So Tyquan limited, Trent Brown still limited, Cole Strange, same boat. So offensive line, again, a little shorthanded today. That starting unit, it was Mafi back in at right guard and Rusi in at left guard with Reef and McDermott at the tackles. They held their own in one-on-ones, the offensive line, but then when they went into 11s, it was kind of a mess, right? And I think both Mack and Zappi faced a good amount of pressure today, a good amount of sacks for a lot of the defense, blitzing a lot from the secondary. I had Jalen Mills on one. So that offensive line, we still expect that top-end talent to get better as they get healthier, but still you're still kind of seeing the worst-case scenario maybe with 1 or 2 injuries to that top unit.
Yeah. It's sorry, say that again. You cut out again. I think it's on my end. I think it's on my end. Like, I think you're good. The back end says you're good, but
I'm plugged in here from our.
Okay, it's on my end then. So all right. What'd you say?
That the O-line, a lot of pressure. They were good in one-on-one.
Oh yeah.
not so great in 11s. It kind of
So
fell
it's
apart
funny
there.
you mentioned that. Like one thing that was notable to me, and I apologize to everybody who's got to deal with us. You've all been talking about our internet in the live chat, in the replies, and now you have to watch us do it in real time. We're working on it. One thing that really stood out to me with the offensive line today was Riley Reiff, dominant win over Josh Uche in one-on-ones. And then they get to team drills, and Josh Uche just snowplowed him. And I think I've kind of figured out why Riley Reiff is struggling. Because the thing about one-on-ones is there's no mystery in it. Like, yeah, there's different pass rush moves you can do, but, I'm right here, you're right there, you're coming at me. You're not going to go over here. You're not going to go over there. You're not going to run by, you're not going to try to run by somebody in a one-on-one. Whereas in a team set, yeah, he's going to try to go around the edge. He's going to try to go around the horn. And you as an offense, he being the rusher, and you as a lineman, you've got to move yourself out to that spot to make that play. And what Riley Reiff is struggling with right now is that part. Like when he gets in position, when he gets his hand on a guy, yeah, he's fine. He's holding up. But getting to that point when somebody's coming around the edge, moving to the outside, it's fine. I spin in my chair. I didn't even mean to do that. Like moving to the outside, getting back in that pass set to make that play is the struggle right now. And I do think Connor McDermott's passed him, and Connor McDermott was fine today. Connor McDermott's always just sort of fine, which could be worse, could be better. I don't know if you ever watched this is a really dark comparison. You ever watched the HBO series Chernobyl?
No, I haven't.
It's really good. You should watch it. But it became a meme in it where, like, they're measuring like the level of something, and they get to meet, and this guy just goes, not great, not terrible. And it's like, yeah, all right, that's kind of what Connor McDermott is. Like, yeah, we're not in immediate danger, but I don't feel great about it. And that's better than what we're getting from Riley Reiff right now. Now, the interesting thing is they're both on the field. So we haven't really seen Reiff rep at right tackle, which is where he would probably be with Trent Brown on the left side. But look, the whole thing's just a mess. The one silver lining in all of this on the offensive line, I would say, is we've gotten to see, between all the injuries, and injuries are obviously never good, but just this is the circumstance. Antonio Mafi, I think, is a guy. I don't know to what extent. I don't know that I'm not sitting here telling you he's going to be an all-pro, but like he's an NFL guard. I feel comfortable saying that. He had a really impressive rep today where a pass rusher tried to like jump up to knock a ball down, and Mafi just planted him. And like that's what you want to see these guys do. He's got a nasty streak that you don't see when there's no pads on. You don't see from anybody when there's no pads on. So what I wonder is if I don't even know it's about not seeing enough from Reiff or McDermott. And McDermott's probably done enough to this point where, like, if he keeps doing this, he'll start the season at right tackle. But we talked about that thing that does Mike Onwenu move out to right tackle at any point? And I think we talked about that a lot in the context of what if the right tackles are terrible, which, yeah, if the right tackles are terrible, you need another answer. But the other part of that was you need a guard to fill in for Mike Onwenu. And we had sort of talked about it in the abstract of, well, we like their depth at guard more than their depth at tackle, and they'll probably find somebody. I think they might have done that. I think they might have found somebody in Mafi that, again, I don't know exactly what he is, but I'd feel comfortable if they need to move Mike Onwenu to right tackle, saying, all right, we can move him out there. We'll give Mafi a shot and see what that looks like. So that's kind of been the silver lining in all of this. But yeah, it's still a mess. Look, they have 2 of 5 starters on the field right now. It shouldn't look good, but it's kind of, you saw it coming.
That was my big kind of takeaway, that at least when you're getting these reserves in there, one of them is stepping up. And Mafi, you mentioned that play, he planted the guy. He also had a big win over Godchow in one-on-one. So he just looks better and better as you get these pads on. And as you alluded to with the Mike Onwenu thing, if you have to get to a point where you just play your best 5, now you have another guard you can put in there and bump Onwenu out. So that'll be interesting to see it when this, hopefully Trent comes back and we get a real right tackle competition. And then if that kind of bottoms out, then maybe they are forced to bump Onwenu out and you can rely on a guy like Mafi inside there. So if there is a silver lining, that's probably the one here from losing some of this O-line top end talent early on.
Yeah.
Yep. So should we hear from our pals at Fanduel, and then we'll jump into
we're actually going to hear from
I
think we're actually going to hear from me today. Because I will tell you that football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel's giving you a chance to win all season long. Because right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. That's a good deal. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl. You'll get bonus bets for every victory. You can use your bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and start earning bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. That's actually a really good deal, Brian. So for people who don't know what
that is,
bonus bets is like, they'll give you, and sometimes this was a promo we used to run, we don't anymore. It's like up to $1,000. If your first bet loses, you get a bonus bet, which is basically, they don't put $1,000 back in your account that you can like withdraw, but it's like you have this money to bet. So, I mean, what you could do with that, you could bet the team you think is going to win the Super Bowl. There might be overlap here. You could also just bet on a team you think is going to win a bunch of regular season games. And then, like, even if they don't end up winning the Super Bowl, if you take those bonus bets and you play some smart, you still probably end out heavily up. Like, can we call that the Jets bet? Because we've been saying the Jets are the team that's going to win like 14 games and lose in the wild card round. I guess you might as well bet on the team you think is going to win the Super Bowl, right? But you could probably make more money off that just betting on the team you think is going to win the most regular season games. It's probably more of a
bet on the Chiefs.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably more of a Chiefs bet, but like, I don't know, Jets bet, whatever. That's a really good deal. So again, that is FanDuel. I want to make sure I get the code right. FanDuel.com/Boston to set that up.
Jets, you kicking off the season tonight, Hall of Fame game.
That's
you
right.
Going on FanDuel to place anything? Jets -2.
I have not
I believe
yet. I love betting on the Hall of Fame game because I think it's like peak degeneracy. And there's just like, while you watch the Hall of Fame game, I bet on it. Are you serious? I feel like I gained power from that interaction, but I don't know. It's going to be Zach Wilson, right? We get to see Zach Wilson.
Someone was on Twitter. I forgot who it was, but they're like, I got Zach Wilson in my daily fantasy lineup tonight. This is peak, football's back, baby.
The great thing about the Hall of Fame game is like, we're going to spend all day today. You just did it. Football's back. I can't wait to watch a football game. This is great. And nobody plays anybody in the Hall of Fame game. I mean, most of the guys who play in this game will not play in the NFL this year. So we get all geared up for football coming back. And then within like 10 minutes, we're going to be sitting there like, this kind of sucks. Yeah, this is not real football. But it was fun last year because it was Josh McDaniels and it was the Raiders and it was Jarrett Stidham lighting it up. Meanwhile, we're going to have a Hall of Fame game soon in New England. I really think so, because they usually base it off of the class, right? It's the Jets and the Browns this year. You have Joe Thomas. You have Terrell Revis, of course. I would imagine the Patriots will get the Hall of Fame game when Brady goes in.
Yeah,
I would be pretty surprised if they didn't. So we might be due for one in a couple years.
It wouldn't be Brady and Gronk. Gronk will be a year earlier.
Gronk would be a year earlier. So and I don't think the Patriots would get it. Oh, you know what? It's going to be Patriots Bucks whenever Brady gets in. That's what it'll be.
Yeah.
They should do. Remember they used to do throwbacks in the Hall of Fame game?
Yeah.
Which like throwbacks in the preseason is an absurd concept.
Although you couldn't do the Reds versus the creamsicles. That wouldn't really work.
Yeah, it'd be tough. Oh, perfect. Patriots wear their white throwbacks, which I love.
Yeah.
Which also, awesome. Since we're on this tangent, the Hall of Fame game features one of the stupidest coaching decisions in NFL history. And it specifically came when the Titans played somebody. Might have been the Jets. And it was the year they wore the Oilers throwbacks in the Hall of Fame game. And the Titans broke out one of the sickest fake punt plays I've ever seen. And it went for a touchdown. It was great. But they burned it in the Hall of Fame game. Like, what are you doing?
Is that recently?
I you know what? I tweet about that every year. Now I got to go find, because I realized I haven't sent that tweet out yet today. I'm going to do that right now. It was, within the last 15 years, maybe the last 10 years. I feel like I was probably in high school.
But yeah, burning your good stuff in the Hall of Fame game is a decision. But
and it's not like they ran like, you want to run a trick play in the Hall of Fame game, run a flea flicker. We all know what a flea flicker is. They ran like serious. A play that you can only run once, and they ran it in the Hall of Fame. And now I got to look up what year that was, because doesn't that seem like something Jeff Fisher would do?
Yes,
It was
very
the
much
Bills.
so.
It was Titans Bills. I want to hang on. Now I gotta see. Stall for me for a second here. Titans Bills Hall of Fame game. It was 2009. So yeah, I think that was Jeff Fisher. Yeah, it was Jeff Fisher. Guess what their record was that year? The Titans
8-8.
8-8. That's right. Third place in the AFC South. Peak Jeff Fisher season. If you want to see the fake punt, you can go on my Twitter right now, at real Alex Barth. I'm about to tweet it out.
It writes itself. The jokes write themselves. But all right, we'll get off the Hall of Fame game a little.
Oh, it's literally you might have missed it. It was literally Jeff Fisher high-fiving somebody after they ran it. Like, dude, what are you doing?
We did it. Yes.
It worked.
We can never do it again, but it worked. Okay.
All right, let's get on with the Patriots.
So Case transitioned us perfectly here. This is what I wanted to go to, because without Jack Jones today, Isaiah Bolden continues to get some increased reps. He was kind of out there on Christian Gonzalez at the end there. Had a nice little pass breakup on Parker, I believe, down the field in a 2-minute drill.
That was a really nice play. Yeah, that wasn't your typical like swat the arm up of a ball kind of in the city. No, Parker had the ball in his hands, a jump ball situation. Parker went up and got it. Bolden 6'3", punched the ball out in a 2-minute drill. That was a big time play for the Rook.
Yep. So he continues to kind of stack some days here and make it interesting. Jack Jones, again, it's a questionable situation there, so they might need that depth along the boundary there, and that size and speed is really enticing. So if he could stack, make a push here, that would be intriguing fit. And then the other corner, Christian Gonzalez, had one of maybe the most physical plays of camp so far. If you were worried about his physicality, I know that was a knock on him getting out of school. Maybe why he was available at pick 17 for the Patriots. He flew downhill on like a short little pass in the flat to Raleigh Webb and lit him up for loss. So good to kind of see, that physicality that we wanted to see from Christian Gonzalez here early on.
Yeah, and we talked about how yesterday was kind of an interesting day for him, right? I thought he was doing everything right. He was just getting beat, and that can be life in the NFL. Back in one-on-ones today, gets another high-profile rep against Juju Smith-Schuster, slot fade. Juju beat him clean off the line. I thought, oh no, it doesn't look great. But this was a big thing with Gonzalez coming out. The ability to change direction effortlessly, close in space. Juju beats him off line at a point where I'm thinking, oh no. Yet Gonzalez had the pass breakup. Like, he caught up to him and broke it up with room to spare. So that was one where I'm like, all right, kid's not discouraged. Great sign. And he got beat again later in the day. Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne got him on what was probably the play of the day, that throw to the back corner. Kendrick Bourne runs a deep post in the back corner of the end zone. Mac Jones put it just off the boundary. Kendrick Bourne goes up, gets it over Gonzalez, toe tap. Mac really put it in a spot where only Bourne was going to make a play on it. Like, Gonzalez got beat by the throw more than the receiver. But yeah, I thought for Gonzalez overall it was a nice bounce back day. And talking to him after practice too, like, he doesn't seem
phased at all.
Too worried about it. He seems to understand that this is a learning process, and he does seem to understand, like, he's going to get beat, and it's, what do you take from getting beat? It's funny, actually. So Julian Edelman did a surprise media scrum after practice, which was cool to get in. And he brought up what is like an old time Patriots cliche, but it's so true. Because they asked him, like, what advice would you give the young guys out here? And he said, you're going to make mistakes in camp. And he said, I forget who it was, an old Scott O'Brien, who was a special teams coach for the Patriots years ago, told him this. And this goes back, this is like day one Belichick stuff. You're going to make mistakes. That's camp. That happens. When you make the mistake, what do you learn from it? And are you making the same mistake twice? As much as people think the Patriots are this, perfection machine, they allow room for mistakes. What they don't want to see is, do you go out and make the same mistake again? Because that means you didn't learn from it. You didn't change anything. And that's what they care about. And with Gonzalez, I would say he's doing a good job of, he's getting beat at times, but like, I think the one against Parker yesterday is a great example where he did everything right. He still got beat on the route. He came back today and on a similar route won. And that's really good to see.
Yep. And that one to Bourne, it looked like
By
he
the way,
stumbled
good
a
life
little bit.
advice too.
So,
Good life advice too.
yeah,
You're gonna make mistakes, but just
true.
don't make the same mistake twice.
Yep. Yeah, that one to Bourne, pretty throw by Mac, but it looked like Gonzalez stumbled coming out of the break, so maybe he could have got a hand on that. But yeah, he didn't seem phased at all. Still has that quiet confidence, it looks, talking to him after practice. But staying with the rookies, Keon White, again, he just pops with the pads. His speed, power, it's all kind of there. I had him in the backfield numerous times in 11s, and someone asked about Sam Roberts the other day, and all of a sudden Sam Roberts was in front of my eyes a few times. He looked like he had a would-be sack and a few pressures. Mix it in with some of those top defensive line units too. So two guys there along the D line who kind of had some nice days.
Yeah, Keon White's been awesome, and he's a guy, I think we talked about this yesterday. Didn't talk a lot about him the first few days. We weren't going to. Pads weren't on. Not his game. Pads come on, boom, shows up. So continuing what's been a part of a really good rookie class. I know you're talking about the defensive line, but just pass rush as a whole, and I kind of talked about it before. Josh Uche, another good day.
Yep.
And he's been kind of quiet. I feel like he probably hasn't gotten talked about as much as, to reflect the camp he's having. And that happens sometimes, right? There's only so much you can get out there in a day, but I had him down for another sack today. He's another guy that's looked good up front. Although with him, like Josh Uche's always been really good in camp. Padded practices, non-padded practices. He's always been good in the spring. He's always been good in the summer. It's just getting that to translate to the regular season. So, I'm not getting too ahead of myself with him just because I've seen this one before. Now, there's the ending of last season, which is what you want to put weight on, but that is what I'll put weight on. Like, if he comes out of the gate, I'm not necessarily going to say he had a great camp. He always sort of has a great camp. If he comes out of the gate strong, I'm going to say he's picking up where he left off last year.
Yep. I think I had him for 2 sacks, maybe. Definitely 1, though. But
I am very stingy with my training camp sacks, personally. Yeah. You have to really earn that to get it from, and I don't know what it is. Because I want, there was one today where Bailey Zappi made a pretty good throw to Kendrick Bourne. It was a nice throw and catch. It probably was a sack, but I want to count that because I want to hype up Kendrick Bourne because that's my guy. So not that
was my Sam Roberts sack. That was the one, my Sam Roberts sack.
Right. So it's yes, would Bailey Zappi have been sacked on the play? Probably, but he made an impressive throw. Kendrick Bourne made an impressive catch. I want to give them credit for that because they still did it. It's all about showing what you can do. That's what camp is. They still showed they can do it. It's not, sacks are a reflection of the offensive line. The quarterback, the receiver still made the play. Most of my sacks are the sacks I'm more willing to give in camp. And ultimately, this is all meaningless because, again, it's about showing what they can do. The stats don't mean anything. But my sacks are when the quarterback holds the ball. That's when I'm like, all right, you got to make a play.
Yeah, there was another one of those iffy ones with Kayshon Boutte. It looked like if it was live, right, it could have been a sack, but Zappi kind of nice ball, and Boutte went up along the back end line in the end zone there and had a really nice catch for a touchdown. Good body control as he's showing. So, sacks, hit or miss there sometimes throughout camp. But offense, defense, those were, I think, all my little details and takeaways. Any last thing you had before we get into the good special team stuff from the day?
Let's see. We talked about Isaiah Bolden. I gave my Raleigh Webb take yesterday. He gets open.
He had a few more catches today.
Yeah. Hunter Henry, really good one-on-ones again. We're not talking about Hunter Henry at this point because what more can you say? Dude's having a good camp. Period, end of story. He's probably been their best pass catcher. So another that hasn't changed. Until further notice, Hunter Henry, good.
Yep. Agree with you there. But big day for Chad Ryland. Big kicking day on the eve of the in-stadium practice, which should be another big kicking day in some inclement weather.
That's
maybe
the big kicking day.
Yeah, but he had plenty of opportunities.
We do have this. Hang on,
today.
Sorry to cut you off because this is a Johnny Lumpkin podcast. Nope, not that one. This one.
Oh yeah. Red jersey.
Yeah, red jersey, non-contact jersey. So I don't know what happened to him, but he looks even bigger somehow in the red non-contact jersey.
Yeah, he does. But yeah.
I would have been pissed if we missed the Johnny Lumpkin news.
But so it was interesting to watch because he ended Tuesday's session. He didn't seem too happy with how that ended. He had that close one on the right upright and then left the toe open, maybe overcorrected and hooked his final one left. So it was interesting to watch how he bounced back after Folk did kicking duties yesterday, and he was perfect. I had 9 for 9. Looked like the max was in like that 45, 50, 48-yard range, and
Yeah.
still they did 2 minutes too. So it's, you're rushing out there, you're under the gun, the pressure's on, and he was 3 for 3 in those situations. So just a pretty much perfect day for Chad Ryland in this department.
And the big thing, he was the kicker. They do this a couple times over the course of camp. So when they were doing the 2-minute drill, they finished the drive and then they put whatever it was, like 15 seconds on the clock, 3rd and 8, and they ran a play, and then they had to run the field goal unit onto the field, and Ryland was the kicker for that. That's the starting kicker's drill. So that's a strong side that it's him.
Yep. He's been awesome. And Behringer, still the holder during all of that. And he led punting drills today. I don't know. Did you have the hang times for today?
It looked like I did. They were down a little bit. They were doing a weird drill.
It looked like they were a little shorter field, and it looks like they were trying to pin them like as close to the end zone as possible. So a little less on the hang times, but
yeah, and they had
you can read them off.
They had Brendan Schooler back there as the returner, but he was like batting at the ball. So they don't read too much in the hang times today. They're up there, but I think this was a very specific thing. Yeah, like a very specific kind of drill. They weren't going full go.
Slater was back there too, kind of like batting them around. Wasn't like a clean team punting drill. So, but Behringer was the first one up, still holding. So looks like those rookies have that inside track here early on for the roster spots.
Yeah, I would say so. Evan asked me this on Catch 22 earlier, and by the way, that's now up on Patriots.com. I'm not ready to say like it's done. Yeah. I'm everywhere but though. Like at this point, I think because the thing with rookies is they're inconsistent. So I don't know that Waitman or Folk can catch either of the rookies. But also remember, Quinn Nordine had the 10 for 10, and then what was it, like 1 for 5 in that preseason game. So that's pretty much all we're waiting on. As long as these guys can tread water between now and the end of the preseason, I think it's the rookies.
Yep. So we can wrap it up with a few roster moves because in classic fashion, right when we logged off yesterday, they made a roster move. They released wide receiver Ed Lee, undrafted free agent out of URI. And then right before we hopped on, good timing actually today, they released linebacker Terez Hall with an injury settlement, I believe. And he was someone who got banged up on that collision with time-on practices ago, and we haven't really seen him since. So 2 roster moves, and they also worked out, was it CJ Maribel?
I don't know if it's Maribel or Marable. That is, but whatever he is, he's a 2-time USFL champion.
Yeah. And so continuing to kind of bring in some running backs here with 2 roster spots open now.
Yeah, again, I think they know they need a running back and they're going to get to it. I think that they're using this opportunity to get a lot of reps for Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris and get those guys experienced and really evaluate those guys. And I've said this before. I think you're looking at after the Packers game, before they make the trip to Tennessee, signing a back and bringing in somebody like Ezekiel Elliott or like Leonard Fournette to get ready for the regular season. Do you want to hear my conspiracy theory about Dalvin Cook?
Sure.
So remember how Dalvin Cook was like a Jet? Like he made it sound like he was signing with the Jets and it was like all said and done. And then we haven't heard anything about it for like 3 or 4 days. So Hard Knocks debuts tomorrow, right? August 4th, I believe is the debut. He's already signed. They're waiting to break it on the Hard Knocks debut, which would be monumentally stupid, but it also seems like something the Jets would do.
That would be a this year's Jets move.
Again, conspiracy theory. Like, I don't think that's real, but I kind of want it to be real because it would be hilarious.
Yep. Yeah, but it looks like they'll add a running back here. Someone asked where Montgomery is. We haven't seen him practice with the team.
We did see him today, though.
Yeah, but we saw him. He appeared in his jersey, too, so it looked like he might have been conditioning somewhere. So maybe he's factors back into the equation here sometime. Doesn't look like that could be season ending here or missing serious time, he might back in the mix soon here. So, but still, even if he comes back, probably still need another running back there.
Yeah, I need a guy. I think they know they need a guy. They're just, for whatever reason, and I think the reason is they want to see the kids. I think they're waiting on it.
Yep. I'd agree with you there. So, any last thoughts before we wrap up here and move on to Friday night?
I think we actually got to the whole. Normally, I have one or two things from my notebook at the end, but I think we talked about Thornton. Miles Bryant had a good one-on-one win today against, I think it was Keyshawn Boutte. So Miles Bryant,
he had a hold too in the red zone. I don't know if you saw that.
He did have a hold.
Played a Gesicki, looked like he was open. Nice little tug.
Okay, but Miles Bryant also should not be covering Mike Gesicki.
Exactly.
Once Miles Bryant's covering Mike Gesicki, you've already lost, and it's not Miles Bryant's fault.
That's what we said yesterday. Let's put him in positions that he can succeed, and him against Mike Gesicki probably isn't one of those. So,
but his strong summer continues. So I'm working on my roster projection. I have Miles Bryant on. It is really hard.
Yeah,
I had, spoiler alert, right now, and I'm still going to tweak and fiddle with it, but I have Isaiah Bolden as my 54th player, and that's already getting creative and opening up some spots that might not open up. But I'm like, it's tough. It's getting tough because I want to put Isaiah Bolden on, but it's like he's a guy that I think right now, they have the initial 53, and then somebody goes on IR. And then he gets re-added to the roster. He gets elevated from the practice squad the first few weeks and then gets signed later on. So we'll see what happens with that. It's tough, though.
Just so much depth on that defensive side of the ball. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
But so that'll do it from day 8 of Patriots training camp. In stadium tomorrow, 6:30 start, I believe. Gates open at 6 for season ticket members and Foxborough residents. Looks like maybe a little rain, so we'll see what happens there. But we'll be back to recap it maybe tomorrow night or maybe Saturday. We'll see. So turn on your Patriots
It's going to be a TBD.
Yeah, so make sure you're subscribed. Notifications on Patriots Press Pass so you know when we are going to go live. But until then, you can follow Alex on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Go read all of his training camp coverage over at 985thesportshub.com. Check me out on Twitter at I am Brian Hines, and go read all my training camp coverage over at patspulpit.com. Thank you, as always, for tuning in, and we will see you guys